Welcome back. With me is Mike Dimock, who's Vice President of Field Development for Certis USA. So Mike, I'm hearing a term for the first time, I'm sure not for everybody up and down the aisles here, but what's a bio-pesticide? I know what a pesticide is. What's a bio-pesticide?
Well, bio-pesticides are pesticides that are of natural origin. They tend to be either microbial in origin or they can be biochemical in origin. So they are things like bacteria and fungi that either attack, parasitize, or otherwise kill plant pathogenic fungi or insects, or they can be pheromones that are used to disrupt the mating of insects. So it's a fairly broad category that's regulated as such by EPA. But these are registered pesticides.
And what's the advantage or disadvantage of using them versus traditional or synthetic pesticides?
Biopesticides, because they generally have a non-toxic mode of action, so they're inherently less toxic than chemical pesticides.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, and so they also tend to be exempt from residue tolerance, so they don't add to residue issues or MRLs, maximum residue limits, things like that. They are very low risk for human operators, so for farm workers or bystanders, for beneficial insects, pollinators, etc. They tend to have multiple and unique modes of action, so they can be rotated with chemical fungicides or insecticides for resistance management. So they have quite a few advantages in that regard. Very versatile products.
And let's bring it down to the potato growers. What biopesticides are good for them? What are available now, and what's coming down the line?
Well, there are a number of biofungicides in particular for control of things like early blight, late blight, white mold. My company, Certis USA, has a product that was just launched last year called Lifeguard, which induces resistance in the plant. It basically triggers stimulates the plant's immune system to fight off disease.
All kinds of disease or specific?
It's fairly non-specific. It basically makes the plant more
stronger.
Yeah, it basically triggers the plant's own inherent defense response against the disease. There are also some myco-insecticides, if you will. These are fungi, naturally occurring fungi that infect insects like Colorado potato beetle, that can be used as an insecticide to cause basically a fatal disease in the beetle. So there are a number of those kinds of products on the market now. More coming as companies like ours and other biopesticide companies are doing the discovery work to look at new microbes and also new biochemical modes of action for use in these things.
And talk to me about how you discover those, because I'm sure it takes years once you identify a specific disease to come up with a biopesticide and lots of money.
Right. There are different approaches to that. For example, I mentioned the product that we have called Lifeguard, which is a result of 25 years of research at Montana State University. And over that time, the microbe was isolated from a sugar beet field, was found to have activity against Cercospora leaf spot and sugar beets. It was identified, characterized, and then licensed to Certis USA to turn it into a product by producing and formulating the product. Other companies will do screening. They'll go out in soil samples, leaf samples, and they'll have usually proprietary methods for screening against insects, nematodes, mites, things like that. Their own in-house, literally looking for the needle in the haystack.
Right.
And nowadays there are quite modern genetic approaches where soil samples, water samples can be probed with molecular genetic techniques like PCR to identify gene sequences that are associated with pesticidal activity for the target of interest, whether that's potatoes, whether it's disease, insects, nematodes, whatever.
What do you see as the biggest challenges for potato growers today as it relates to pests or disease, and what should they be doing about it?
I think if you're asking what's the point of finger at the pest or disease, that's going to have some regional specificity. Sure. Obviously you have eastern versus western and central farmers. Some are going to be dealing with late blight, for example, in the east. In the west, it will tend to be things like viruses, potato virus Y, for example, early blight, white mold in some cases. I think the challenge, and that's why I'm here this week, and the presentation I made was to help potato farmers become more familiar with these types of products, because frankly, the focus of biopesticide companies has largely been in the specialty crops, the high-value specialty crops.
So this is a new arena for you.
So it's somewhat of a new arena to move into, you know, using these in ways that make sense to somebody who's growing a large acreage crop, where often the only opportunity you have for applying something may be in furrow at planting or you know, at very specific and few times during the season. Whereas a strawberry or tomato grower, he's out there every week spraying something. Right. And that's the, I think with the biopesticides, again, going back to the relative safety issue, is we've grown up with the term IPM and the need to sort of reduce chemical usage and residues. They're very valuable tools, chemical fungicides, chemical insecticides. But what we have with biopesticides is something to help bridge the gaps as we recognize that either through regulatory action or environmental concerns or other such things that, you know, the need for these materials isn't going to go away. The pests aren't going to just go away because we stop using the insecticide. Right. And so we really see biopesticides as not as a replacement for chemical pesticides, but as a supplement, as another tool in the toolbox.
Well, Mike, thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation.
Phil, thank you for the invitation.
Sure everyone, you know, is very concerned about what you're talking about, and hopefully you're giving them good advice on how to solve a very important problem.
Okay.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
We're going to continue our discussion about pesticides, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.